How do you start a story? You might have heard that you need to start your stories with a bang, that you need to have conflict from the very first page so that you hook your reader. But what does that actually mean? And how do you actually do that? And the answer is that you need to have a strong inciting incident. An inciting incident is one of the 6 structural elements of a plot that you use to tell an effective story. And in this video, we're going to talk exactly about how to use it in your storytelling. So let's start with the definition of an inciting incident, and then we'll talk about how to use inciting incidents, including the 10 types of inciting incidents for every kind of story. So here's the definition for an inciting incident. The inciting incident is an unexpected event in a story that upsets the character's status quo. This begins the story's movement either in a positive way or a negative way, and it all culminates in the climax. In other words, an inciting incident is a situation that comes out of nowhere. It's something that throws the main character into turmoil. It creates all the problems that they have to spend the rest of the story dealing with. Robert McKee says the inciting incident radically upsets the balance of forces in your protagonist's life. But you might have heard the inciting incident called by other names: the call to adventure, the hook, just a general problem, inciting event, exciting incident, inciting moment. These are all the same thing. A good inciting incident has to have 5 things, 5 criteria for it to qualify as an inciting incident. First, it has to be early. Inciting incidents occur early in a story, sometimes in the first scene, usually within the first 4 or 5 scenes. The inciting incident is an interruption. They are an interruption in the main character's normal life. The inciting incident has to be outside of the protagonist's control. They're not caused by the character. They're not a result of the character's desire. There's something coming from the outside in that interrupts the main character. A good inciting incident is life-changing. They have to have higher than normal stakes, the potential to completely change the protagonist's life. And finally, they have to be urgent. They have to require an urgent response. Like I mentioned, the inciting incident is one of the 6 elements of plot. It's really the second element. The first element is the exposition. And then out of the exposition comes the inciting incident, this interruption that causes all the problems. Then you have the rising action and progressive complications, the dilemma, the climax, and the denouement. But the inciting incident is one of the most important things because it really kickstarts the entire movement, the entire plot, action of the story, all of which results in the climax eventually. Depending on the plot type of your story, you might have a different kind of inciting incident. And there are 10 types of inciting incidents that I want to talk about today. There's probably more than 10. So if you have an idea for one that I don't mention here, let me know in the comments. So here are the 10 types of inciting incidents. The first one is called the call to adventure. It might be some kind of MacGuffin as well, okay? This is when Gandalf walks into Bilbo's life and invites him on an adventure to go steal some gold from a dragon. This is when Luke Skywalker finds a hidden message in a droid asking for help. This is when Katniss Everdeen's sister is taken by the Hunger Games and she decides to save her. There's some kind of call to adventure. And a lot of times this looks like a MacGuffin. A MacGuffin is something that the characters have to go look for. It doesn't really matter what that thing is. It might be, I don't know, Horcrux. It might be the Ark of the Covenant. It might be a treasure of some kind. It might be, I don't know. It's a MacGuffin. And the characters are all looking for it. And so the MacGuffin could be a call to adventure. The second type of inciting incident that I want to talk about is called a great crime against me. Some horrible act is done against the protagonist, some horrible crime, and it forces them to go and bring justice to that person. Maybe that looks like revenge. Maybe that looks like bringing that character to justice. Whatever it is, they have to go find that person. So the Count of Monte Cristo has this kind of inciting incident. Braveheart Batman Begins, Kill Bill. Basically, a lot of revenge plots have this kind of inciting incident. The third type is our show me the body inciting incident. In these types of stories, there is some kind of dead body or at least some kind of crime that the characters discover. This is really common, especially in mystery and thriller and crime stories, but they're also found in a lot of horror stories as well. There's some kind of crime, and then we have to go and investigate what happened and find the killer. Examples of this include every detective story, every procedural detective story of all time, but also Jaws has this kind of inciting incident. At the beginning, there's a dead body that washes up on shore, and then we have to go figure out who did it. So that kind of horror story might have this kind of inciting incident as well. The fourth type of inciting incident is especially popular with horror writers. This is the haunted house or forbidden object inciting incident. The characters either discover something eerie, whether it's a place or an object, something that they know they shouldn't interact with, but they choose to do it anyway, and then they are punished for their curiosity. So the Haunting of Hill House is an example, Poltergeist, Lock and Key, all examples of that kind of inciting incident. The fifth type of inciting incident is one of the most common. You see this all the time, especially in any kind of love story. It's called the meet cute. The couple meets for the first time, and there's some kind of an emotional connection that's made. Sometimes this happens in a really embarrassing way. One of the couple makes a fool of themselves, or both of them make a fool of themselves. Sometimes they even hate each other at this point. But the point is that sparks fly. And by the way, this inciting incident type also works for versions of the love story involving platonic relationships. So any buddy story subtype. So for example, when Nick Carraway meets Jay Gatsby at a party in The Great Gatsby. The sixth type is also related to any kind of love story, but it's the opposite of the meet cute. There's some kind of betrayal. So in love stories where the couple are together at the beginning, a lot of times you'll see some kind of betrayal happen to begin the plot's movement. 3 examples of this are Kramer versus Kramer, Betrayal by Harold Pinter, and Heartburn by Nora Ephron. An inciting incident that you see in a lot of sports films or sports stories or any kind of performance story is the big tournament. In stories that involve some kind of performance, some skill or talent, a lot of times you'll see a big tournament at the end of the story. They have to enter the big tournament at the beginning, and then the climax builds up to this final match, this final test of skill in the big tournament. Examples of this include Miracle, the film, Remember the Titans, and Paper Lion by George Plimpton. The 8th type of inciting incident is called Here There Be Dragons, and this is especially common in any kind of coming-of-age story, where the protagonist discovers something that's outside of their current worldview. Maybe it's the existence of magic, or the kindness of a stranger, or some kind of new social class that they never had access to. But whatever it is, it throws them into confusion and shows them how little they actually understand the world, and they spend the rest of the story trying to figure out how the world actually works. Examples of this include How to Train Your Dragon, Great Expectations by Charles Dickens. Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone is a great example of this as well. The 9th type of inciting incident is called the principal's office. And this is another way to approach inciting incidents in coming-of-age stories where you have the main character getting into big trouble. Often they're getting into trouble in a school setting. And then they have to go through the process of reflecting on their lives and making big changes. Examples of this include Good Will Hunting and, of course, the 1980s film, The Breakfast Club. And the 10th and final type of inciting incident that we're going to talk about today is the temptation. In a story where there is a morality plot about the forces of good and evil, there is an inciting incident that involves some kind of temptation of the protagonist asking them to betray their conscience for the sake of some benefit or greater good. So the Batman film, The Dark Knight, is an example of this. And Dr. Faustus by Christopher Marlowe, the play, is of course one of the classic examples. But also The Lord of the Rings has an inciting incident early on in the story with a temptation. So there you have it. There are the 10 inciting incident types. And let's be honest, the inciting incident can be a little bit complicated. So if you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed right now, here's some of my favorite writing advice ever. In the first act, put your character up a tree. In the second act, throw rocks at them. In the third act, bring them down. Your job to begin your plot is to put your character up a tree and then start throwing rocks. As long as you do that, you will have your inciting incident and your story will be moving. If you want more help structuring your story, check out my new book, The Right Structure, which helps writers make their plot better and write books that readers love. We'll post the link to The Right Structure in the description so you can learn more about it there and get your copy. But this is the right practice, so now it's time to put what you just learned to practice using a creative writing exercise. So here is your practice. I want you to choose one of the inciting incidents that we talked about today, and then write it out in one sentence. Outline your inciting incident for a story. Could be any kind of story, but write it out in one sentence. And then I want you to set a timer for 15 minutes and start writing your inciting incident scene. When your time is up, you can post your practice on therightpractice.com. We'll have a link in the description where you can post that and get feedback on your writing. That's it for me. Thanks so much, everyone. Happy writing.